Okay, all right. Turn my radio off. Okay, I've silenced everything. I apologize for my tardiness. Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here today. Yeah, I didn't expect to be invited to this leadership presentation, but I'm here to talk to you about my leadership journey through my career in law enforcement. I've been on the department for 22 years. So I also know I had instructions to talk for about 20, 30 minutes, and then you guys may have questions. But if somebody has questions during the presentation, I'm good with raising your hand, just ask a question. I'm good with answering whatever, okay? Let's see here. Maybe? No. Here we go. A little bit about myself. I am a Purdue graduate. My bachelor's degree was in psychology. I had a minor in law and society. And when I attended Purdue, they didn't have a more advanced, I guess, law and society degree now. They've got a lot more to offer, I think, for those who want to go into law enforcement or some other specialty in that area. And everybody here is like engineering, right? Engineering? Okay. I was hired at Purdue Police in 1999. I went to the police academy in January of 2000. And when I went to the police academy, it was 12 weeks long. It's now 15 weeks long. I did further my education. I got my master's degree from an online program, University of Phoenix, in Administration of Justice and Security. Some of my police training, does anybody know what CIT is? CIT? CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Team. So I'm just going to tell you just a quick little snippet about that because I've spent actually the majority of my career dealing with CIT and being a big part of that in this community, just not Purdue, but Tippecanoe County. And CIT is specialized training in dealing with people who have mental illness or are in crisis or having suicidal thoughts. And so the training actually goes back to an incident in Memphis, Tennessee, when a couple of officers responded to an incident where a subject had a knife and he was experiencing a mental crisis breakdown. I don't know what his diagnosis was, but he was shot and killed. So that kind of was an outcry to that community to come together with NAMI, which if you're not aware of what NAMI is, it stands for the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And they worked together to put together a program called CIT, and to help law enforcement officers deal better with crisis situations, de-escalation, understanding mental illness. And through this program, I help teach it at times. Through most of my career I have. We're actually getting ready for another training class here in a few weeks. So it's a 40-hour class, and officers go through it, and they learn a lot of different techniques. And it actually is another tool. It's another tool for us to use on the street to de-escalate situations so that we're not using use of force, violence, things like that. I just want to put that out there. I'm also a negotiator. I have been on the negotiation for quite a while. There's 2 of us at our department who are negotiators, and we actually get called out with the sheriff's department. So when the sheriff's SWAT team gets called out, we get called out with them, and we go on scenes to help that situation before SRT has to go in. So the idea, obviously, is somebody comes out and SRT doesn't have to do anything, right? Yeah. I've been a field training officer and a bike patrol officer. How many have seen our 2 bike guys out and about the last year? Positive, negatives, tickets? Yeah, they've been hitting hard, I know. I also used to be in charge of our Purdue Student Security Patrol. Have you guys heard of PSSP? So I was in charge of that for about 12 years. And then Captain Kang has since, he took it over a few years ago. But I want to start with that and talk to you, like I have enjoyed those years, those 12 years in student patrol and working with the students. You learn a lot. And I have a lot of students that come back and they stop by, they talk to me, they let me know how they're doing, and many of them have gone on to law enforcement. Some of them started in that just to do a community policing or a community building project for themselves to be part of Purdue community, and they decided they wanted to go into law enforcement, and some of them have been very successful in those areas. But not everybody who joins PSSP is wanting to go into police work. Many of our really great ones have been in other majors, such as yourself. So some of the police leadership trainings, I've been to a lot over the years. Some are good, some not so much. I've been to the Southern Police Institute for a week-long training. I attended the Northwestern School for Supervisors. It was a 2-week school, and then I'm currently enrolled in the Northwestern Police Staff and Command School, which online is 22 weeks long. So I'm on week 12, and it's pretty intense. So if I was able to go in person, it'd only be 10 weeks. But now I get to juggle 20 to 30 hours of schoolwork and full-time job and family. So to kind of start out my leadership journey, obviously you know I'm a Purdue grad, so hired in '99. I already told you that. In 2002, I was promoted to sergeant. Pretty early, right? Pretty young, not a lot of time on, not a lot of experience. I learned quick. And I've always told people, you learn to lead people, you learn to supervise from my profession when you work the street, when you work the road, when you work patrol. You're dealing with the heart of the police department is the patrol division, okay? And that's where you learn to lead. That's where you learn to supervise. You learn about people and personnel issues, the community, everything else that you have to offer. So it's out there. This is where you learn. This is where I learned. And it didn't stop there, obviously. I grew. I grew from all these experiences, and I got promoted to lieutenant of patrol in 2009. So for a few years, I was in charge of a shift. And so roughly 6 patrol officers, 2 to 3 dispatchers at a time. And then we had a captain who decided to change things up a little bit. He decided to, instead of, we have 4 shifts. We have 2-day shifts, 2 night shifts. So at the time, we had 4 lieutenants who each ran each of those shifts. So this captain came in. He decided to change some things up. We had some staffing issues. And the idea was to put 1 lieutenant in charge of 2 shifts. So I was in charge of a day shift and a night shift. How do you think that went? It was hard. It was hard. So I was responsible for about 15 people, okay? So you're probably wondering, how do you work that, right? How do you manage that? What do you do? So I had to set a schedule, and I primarily worked in 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but usually I wasn't done at 8 p.m. It was more like 9, 10, 11. So my days turned into from 12 to maybe 15, 16 hours, okay? Regularly. And it was interesting because I take a lot of pride in my job. I take a lot of pride in making sure we do things the right way. And I learned a lot from that as a leader, because I was not only in charge of all these people, but once a year we have to do performance evaluations, right? So how do I do performance evaluation when I'm not working the entire night shift, when I'm not working with these officers and these dispatchers all the time? Is that really fair? Probably not, right? That's why I spent so much extra time and overtime, probably not the department's favorite, the overtime, the money they were paying out, to make sure that I was with the officers and the dispatchers so I could adequately evaluate, okay? So those are the things like people. Your people are the heart of the department. They're heart of your organization. Whatever you choose, wherever you decide to go, and if you become a leader, whatever that is, it's the people. The people are what make it run, right? And so it's all about making sure that everybody is doing what they want to do, they're doing the right thing, they're following procedures and policies, but you also have to give them the, you don't want to micromanage. So that's the other thing. You don't want to micromanage your people. And because that will create a negative environment, morale killer. I don't know if you've ever had a job where you had a supervisor who micromanaged. Did anybody ever have that? Always on you all the time? It's not fun, is it? No. not at all. So in 2019, I got promoted to Captain of Administrative Services. And that put me in charge of our investigations division and our special events. So how many have attended basketball games? How about football games? Anybody go to football games? Okay. I run that entire operation. That's a learning experience. Being put into that role. Now there's a sergeant. Do you guys know Sergeant Crosby? Anybody know Sergeant Crosby? Okay. So he works a lot of our overtime events, and he was my sergeant in that area. So when it came to special events, it was just he and I. And really, I consider it a one-man show because it was him. Okay? Now, while my role at football games was the operations, I had to learn to work with a lot of different people. Not only am I having to know where officers are, inside the stadium, outside the stadium. Do you know how many officers it takes to work a football game? Anybody? 18. Higher. Roughly 140 to 150. Do you think Purdue Police has 140, 150 officers? No, not at all. So Sergeant Crosby's job is to get a lot of officers from outside agencies to help us, and he coordinates that. And he puts those officers in the proper places, strategic places, because our goal is obviously safety and security, and keeping our students safe, keeping everybody who is a visitor, who's visiting for the football game, to keep them safe. There's a lot of things to consider that I wouldn't expect anybody to understand, or I'm not going to go into all that. But so when I'm working, my primarily major concern is I deal with inside the stadium, and he deals with outside the stadium. But we have to work together because there's times that he has to go other places, and I have to take over his job as well. So I'm working with athletics, I'm working with other law enforcement people, I'm working with TEMA, I'm working with state police, our senior director. So I'm doing a lot of different things. So you learn a lot in trying to manage the people in a football game, manage your officers, and knowing what's going on and remembering the calls that they've been sent on. Because I'll tell you what, this last football season was the craziest football season I think I've ever worked in my life. Yeah, anybody attend those games? Packed? Yeah, it was crazy, right? Did you see anything interesting? Yeah, were you in the student section? Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty insane. And it's just trying to manage, like, you know your people, I have to know where they're at because we have assignments. So I've kind of got my own little system that I developed over the last 2 to 3 years that I've been doing this. And so that's part of my journey too, is I've learned a lot about myself through dealing with such a large-scale event. Now, I don't work the basketball games, but if you've ever attended basketball, you see probably a lot of police officers working those. I think there's like 20 for the men's and 10 or 12 for the women's. So some of that's based on attendance, unfortunately. I don't think the women get enough credit. Investigations division, we have 5 detectives. So I went from spending my entire career in patrol to being in charge of investigations. Not that I didn't have experience there. I've worked my fair share of cases and things like that, and you deal with the public and you deal with the people. But now I'm dealing with an entire different division and learning from them. So do you think I went in there ready to change everything up and do things different and tick everybody off? No. So when you go into something as a leader, and maybe a new leader for people, the one thing to think about is get to know your people. Now, granted, I've worked with all of these officers for 22 years, some of them a little less, depending on how long they've been at the department. But when you work in different divisions, you don't always know everybody real well, right? So I'm going into a different division thinking, I'm kind of having this I have my own outlook, or I have my own thoughts of how this is going to go, right? But I don't go in there heavy-handed. I don't go in there to change everything. What I did was, I got to know them better. I got to sat down and I talked to each of them individually, okay, to learn about them. But I wanted to know what's good, what needs to be improved, what do we need to keep doing, what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish, training, things like that. So those were things that I sat down, and those are things that I've learned over the years that they value. You know, people want to be heard. And so it's all about sitting down with your people, sitting down with your coworkers, or whoever it is, your classmates, and learning about them. And it's like, who are you? You know, what's important to you? What are you bringing to the table, right? That's what we want to know. Because if I go in heavy-handed and then I tick everybody off, do you think we're going to have a good working relationship? No. We're not going to get a lot accomplished. They're probably going to silence me. They're probably going to shut me out. Who knows? But we don't want to start off on the wrong foot. Sometimes it's all about the tone, right? We got to start off on the right foot and, you know, move forward in that positive direction. So I really did enjoy working with them, but I didn't stay there very long. We had our deputy chief at the time who decided to retire. He took a job elsewhere in the university, and the chief appointed me to deputy chief in 2021, I think it was. Yes, sorry. So I've only been the deputy chief for a little over a year, okay? And I am currently over the patrol division. I'm over dispatch. Our canine officers report to me. Our officers who are on EOD, do you guys know what EOD is? Bomb squad. We have 3 officers on our county bomb squad, and they all report to me. Now, I'm not running EOD. There's a commander in the county who runs that, but they report to me. Our members of the SWAT team report to me, and we have 3, but it's a joint team with West Lafayette Police Department, okay? They don't get called out. Honestly, I don't remember the last time they got called out, and I'll probably jinx myself now. Hopefully, they don't get called out, because that's not what we want. But they do serve a purpose. So I have a lot of different things going on, and one of the things I did, again, when I got appointed to deputy chief, was I knew there was I had some unhappy dispatchers. There was a climate that was a little bit negative. Some things that had happened a year or 2 before, some assignments that left a kind of a bitter taste in their mouth, right? So before I officially took over, I had talked to the still 2 shift lieutenants running 2 shifts and asked them what the issues were. What can we do to improve? I didn't want to go in. I'm not going in heavy-handed. I'm not going in to change it up. I got to figure out what the problems are first, right? Got to figure out the problems. Got to talk to the people. So I talked to them and I listened to them, and they gave me some really great ideas. I don't have to be the one coming up with all the ideas and the decisions. I'm going to rely on other people who are doing and working with these specific people, okay? It's not all about me. It's not. It's about the department. It's about the divisions, okay? So with hearing that, once I took over, I sat down once again with each dispatcher. So at the time, that was probably 7 or 8. We were down a few. We have 12 spots, and we were down a few people, okay? So I sat down with each and every one of them and talked to them. I took the time to listen to them. What was good? What was bad? What do we need to do better? What will help? You know, what are the problems? And I learned a lot. And I learned that one of the bigger issues was some of the training, hiring on new dispatchers and their training program, okay? Kind of important, right? But we went into it, and I listened to them. I had them give me suggestions, and luckily a lot of them lined up with what one of the shift lieutenants had told me, okay? And one of the ideas was, hey, we have this sergeant who used to be a dispatcher. He really knows what he's talking about, plus now he has road experience, he has police officer experience. We want him to run the program and help us improve our training program. And that's exactly what we've done. Now, we're still working out a few kinks here and there, but this is one of the things that as a team, and it's about listening to your team, okay? And that's what I did. So those are one of the positive things. There's still a lot of work to do. There's lots of things I want to do. It takes time. Things aren't fixed overnight. Some things may not be as important as others, but obviously I had dispatchers who were upset, so that was a main goal, and that was what the lieutenants told me. It's like, this is what we need to fix first. This is the main thing, okay? So that's what we did. Any questions so far? Concerns? Thoughts? No? Okay. So, I've kind of already talked about a little bit of what have I learned along the way, okay? What have I learned? I learned a lot from mistakes. And while it's hard to admit our mistakes, if you own your mistakes and you let your people know, I made a mistake, it's going to go a long way, all right? It's going to go a long way, no matter what your profession is, no matter what you're doing. You own your mistakes, even in your personal life, right? You know, if you have a significant other, best friend, you make a mistake, you screw up, right? If you own it because you did screw up, you move on. You talk it out, it goes a long way. It says a lot about you as a person. I have also learned from other people's mistakes. Going through the ranks as a patrol officer, as a sergeant, I learned from other people. I learned from supervisors that maybe I didn't care for so much, or I didn't think they really paid enough attention. I learned from those. I learned the good too, and I took the good. You know, everybody's got good qualities. You might have some bad qualities, or maybe some that don't exactly fit your values. That's the other thing, your values and what you value, your ethics, your morals, right? So I take all that and I learn from it. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm still going to make mistakes, and I'm still learning. After 22 years, I'm still learning. Every step of the way, I have more to learn. And I learned from everybody else too. It's not all about me. My education, I value my education, as I'm sure all of you value your education, and wherever it leads you, right? It's your accomplishment. You've worked so hard, right? What year are you guys? Are you getting ready to graduate? I don't know what the year is. Mostly freshmen. Okay, so you got a little bit to go, right? Okay. But I value my education, and I know you will too, and I know you do, okay? Your parents probably value your education. The other thing, sometimes you just got to do it. It's scary, right? It's scary to jump in there and do something new. I've been turned down for many promotions. I haven't always gotten a promotion. I put in for many, and there's several I did not get. But you learn from those. But you got to try, right? You got to try. And even going into law enforcement when I was 25, scary. Scary. Because what if I fail? What if I don't make it? Then what's that say about me? You know what? At least I tried. And I've moved along the way, and I've been successful. It's not been perfect along the way, but you just do it. You got to try. And that's what I want to tell you, is like, you got to try. You know, if there's something you really want to do, give it a shot. Because even if you don't make it, maybe you're going to get another opportunity. Don't give up. Learn from the mistakes. Learn from why you didn't get it the first time. Okay? Don't give up. If you want something bad enough, you're going to get it. You just got to work at it. It takes a lot of work, no matter what it is you're trying to do. Listening. As I've already kind of talked about, I've listened to everybody. I've listened to my people. When I've worked this street and I've taken cases and I've spent lots of time with people. You know, people call us when it's like usually the worst moment of their life, right? I mean, you don't call the police just to chit-chat, right? I mean, that'd be nice. That'd be nice, right? It'd be nice to sit down and have a conversation and talk to people and, you could get to know us and know who we are, and that we're not just this, right? This intimidating looking uniform. Right? Is it intimidating? If there's a police car behind you, you're driving down the road, is it scary? It's scary for me too. I'm like, I know better, I shouldn't be speeding, right? I mean, there's a lot there. I'm not gonna lie, it's like, oh crap, am I speeding? I look, you know. It's intimidating, I know it is. But I listen to everybody. I listen to my officers, I listen to my dispatchers and other civilian employees, and of course I listen to the chief and take his advice. So something I've learned along my way is to be authentic, to be me, to be my authentic, genuine self. You're probably wondering, I've been here, of course I admit I was late, right? I've probably only been here about 20 minutes. You don't really know me. I don't know what you think of me. I can imagine that, it may not be all positive. Hopefully I'm giving you a halfway decent impression of who I am and what I represent. But I don't know. But this is what I've learned. You have to lead from the inside, from who you are, from your heart, not from the outside in. We've all probably had bad days, right? Bad days. You've gotten angry at somebody, upset, a little short. Doesn't really go over well. You got to be who you are. You got to follow your heart. And when I was a lieutenant, a nickname I got was Lieutenant Hugs a Lot. That was what my officers called me. I know, it's funny, and you can laugh about it, but because of the CIT program, I valued the CIT program. I valued sitting down with people who were in crisis and having those conversations and trying to get them the help they need, because that's who I am. And it's cliche to say, because everybody wants to know, okay, why do you want to be a police officer? You want to help people, right? It's true. It's absolutely 100% true. You want to help people. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. And I feel that over the years in my career, my 22 years, I have helped people. You don't always know you've helped people, but there's been times, I remember one time I helped a student who was in crisis. He was at the top of the Northwestern parking garage, and we got a call. And I made it up there, and he was right near the edge. Not standing on the ledge or anything like this. It's been years ago. And I talked to him. We talked and talked. I took him to the hospital to get some help. Probably a few weeks, month or so later, I ran into him at the McDonald's over here. I happened to be in there getting some lunch, and he came up to me and he says, "Weren't you the officer that talked to me in the garage?" And I looked at him and I was like, "Yeah, I was. How are you?" And he proceeded to tell me that he's had quite the interesting journey after that. He had found out that he'd had a tumor that was affecting some of his thoughts, his feelings, and things like that. So he was dealing with a lot of that. He was going to be fine. But it was kind of interesting. It was great to see him, and the fact that he actually came up to me and said something. I found that very valuable, and that my time mattered to him, because he's here today. I've had other experiences like that. Probably shortly after the CIT program, one of the first classes, I went through it, got my training. I was working night shift. And it's probably like 5 in the morning. Shift ends at 6 a.m. I was still out driving around, tired. Just worked all night, started at 6 p.m., worked all night, ready to go home, driving around, trying to stay awake. A call comes out, State Street Bridge, that there was a subject standing on the bridge, and it looks like he was going to jump. So I headed down there. It's not my jurisdiction. I will tell you that. It wasn't my jurisdiction, but I was out and about. I got down there, and one of the West Lafayette officers who arrived with me, we'd been through the CIT training. We'd been through the class together.